Hello, and welcome to this week's Waldorf Essentials podcast. I'm going to talk this week about state programs and government programs, and I'm really going to ask that you focus on me and not the squirrel that's on the screen behind me, who is trying to get in the bird feeder and have a snack. So he's pretty entertaining, but I want you to focus on me instead. Anyway, we have a lot of people that have messaged us, and we're also as a company sort of seeing all these programs. And I wanted to talk just really quickly off the cuff about pros and cons and sort of what you should think about. So I've homeschooled in several states. I homeschooled in Idaho, Utah, California, Arizona, Florida. So I homeschooled in many places, and all of them had different kinds of programs. Today in today's world, I'm filming this in 2025. Homeschooling is pretty mainstream. It's pretty open and out there. Just about everybody can do it. There are states that have some like heavy regulations and states that don't. And I think that you really can, especially in the United States, kind of like really make up your own mind and sort of go your own way for the most part. Some states, like I said, are a little harder than others. I always recommend checking out the Homeschool Legal Defense website, and we'll link that in the show notes just so that you have a link to it, just to sort of see, especially if you're new, to sort of see what your state is requiring. Because I would say you should follow the rules. I think that rules are definitely made to be broken in some cases, but I am always like, even though I'm like super hands off, I'm always like wanting to make sure that I'm following the law when it comes to that because I don't want an example made out of me. So I'm going to start with where I was when we worked and lived in Utah. So in Utah, we just had to let our district know that our kids weren't attending. So that was super easy. In Idaho, we didn't have any rules at all. It's a pretty free state. I'm thinking they're probably continuing to be that way. But I did notice that Utah is coming up with having one of these state programs where you can get money to homeschool. And that's sort of where I'm going to take this conversation to. So in California, there are a couple of ways to homeschool. You can homeschool with a homeschool charter. You can become a private school, which is what we did, and you can homeschool under an umbrella. So we became a private school, and that paperwork sounds really daunting and scary, but I promise it was not scary. We did it for all the years that we lived there. We filled out our paperwork, sent it in by October, and nobody ever bothered us. The option to do a homeschool charter is a completely different option. A lot of families pick that because they want that payment that can come in from the government. They want that help that can come from the government in this situation. So I want to just preface this and everything else I'm going to say about government programs with knowing that there's nothing that you can get for nothing. Like you have to play their game. And there's never a situation where you get something and you don't have to do anything. So you just want to make sure that the things you have to do are worth it for you, are worth it for your child's development, and are in line with the things that you are doing as a family. So it has to be in alignment with you. I think that if it's not in alignment with you, then you're going to feel like you're pushing the system constantly. And it's also better to go without and work with what you can than have it and then have it yanked and have to figure out then how you're going to pay for things. So in California, when you homeschool with a charter, now again, this is 2025 and they're about to make a bunch of changes and make a whole bunch of new rules. So, and I think this also applies. There are other states that have charter school homeschool programs. I know Hawaii has one. I'm pretty sure Colorado has one, and there's a couple of states in the East that have one too. You need to look at your state. The issue with a homeschool charter is generally the way it works is they assign you a teacher. I also know they had one in Alaska because we were part of one for a short period of time. They assign you a teacher, and that teacher generally wants to look at work samples on a weekly basis. the very least on a monthly basis. Depending on what program you're in, they might want monthly, they might want weekly. And when they're asking for that, they're usually looking for the core subjects. They probably usually want something for math, something for history, something for writing, something for reading, that kind of thing. So that doesn't sound like a big deal, but when you're in the throes of being a parent and you're working on, gosh, I'm trying to make sure I got my homeschooling thing sorted, it becomes then an extra thing. So you want to make sure that you are okay with this extra thing. In addition to turning in these work samples for these charter programs, you also then generally have to test. Some states you have to test on a yearly interval. Some states you only have to test like kindergarten, third grade, fifth grade. So you want to look at what your state is requiring or what your program is requiring. I think that's really important. So also, in California, though the funds that you get from that charter school range, and they don't just write you a check, but those funds range from $1,200 to $3,000, everywhere in between, and sometimes much less. So you have to decide, is this worth it for me? So as a Waldorf homeschooling parent, I always filed a PSA or filed as a private school because I didn't want my younger children to be tested. I was not in that space. I really strongly feel as a Waldorf parent that testing is not a healthy environment, especially for younger children, especially for children, I would say like sixth grade and younger. After that, they can start to experiment with it. And it really depends on how much stock you put in these tests. Now, if you are allowing your child to test and you don't care, then I think that's fine. I think if you go, then you go get ice cream afterwards, it's not a big deal, right? In a lot of the cases in charter schools, you have to go to a building for your testing. It's not something that's done at home. There may be some cases where that's allowed, but in general, you have to go someplace else for this testing. Some of them require it once a year, some of it require more often. So then you have, if you're moving away from the charter ideas, you have these newer state programs. Florida has one, and I did not participate the first year we were here. I felt like Soraya was still too young. She's going into eighth grade this year. We participated last year in seventh grade, and the requirements for it were not a big deal. She had to take one test at the end of the year in order for us to be renewed for the new year, and I don't have to turn in any work samples to anybody. That was a pretty good deal for us. She liked it. She's an avid reader and she loves the idea that she can get all of her books paid for instead of me saying, okay, well, it's going to take a week or two before we can buy this book. This is a list here. So she likes that. She likes that. And I felt like had a really healthy relationship with the test because I didn't put a lot of like stock in it. Like I wanted to just see, like, all right, well, let's just see where you are. And she performed about where I thought she would. I was not concerned about it. We made it fun. We were able to break it up and we were able to do it at home. We were able to do it at home on a computer. And so when you're looking at state funding situations, those are questions you want to ask. You want to look at the parent handbook. You want to go to those little open houses that they have usually that you can go to virtually and ask the questions. What is it that you're going to require of my child in exchange for this state scholarship? So in Florida, the scholarship is crazy. It's like $7,600 a year. I had trouble because I've never had money like that to spend on homeschool. Plus, I write my own curriculum, so it's not like I need it for curriculum support. I had trouble spending it all. I had like my children were like, "Oh yay, we're going to buy more books." So that's what we ended up doing. And in our case, some of that rolls over. So that's not the case in every state program, and every state program is different. I know that in Florida, they're not really caring about test scores right now. So I'm all right with that. If they get to a place where they are, well, I will have to reevaluate. Not because I'm worried that my child won't do well. There's my squirrel again. Not that I'm worried my child won't do well, but I don't want that pressure on her. especially not where she's at now. So she's in eighth grade now. She's 14 years old. She's in a good space and she has a good relationship with it. Now, my child is choleric sanguine. She's pretty happy all the time. If she were a different temperament, it may be a different conversation. So when you're thinking about whether or not to do this, you want to sort of look at this big picture. Who is your child? And if you have several children, you might think, gosh, this program might be okay for this child, but I'm not going to do it for this child over here. And so you want to really think about that. I know, like in the state of Florida, they have several different kinds of scholarships. So if your state is one of these states that's like beginning with these scholarships, you want to really understand all of the pieces and understand how you can utilize them for yourself. Now, I would not utilize them so that I didn't have to do my job because I chose to homeschool. So when it comes to that, now I'm not saying, oh, you sent your kids to seasons of seven, so that's bad. No, I'm not saying that. But I am saying I would not offload every single thing because I didn't want to do it, just because I wanted to keep them at home and didn't want to do it. And in fact, I would really be very careful about what it is that you are offloading. So I will say, we had our Florida scholarship paid for Sam's seasons of seven and he did the full experience. And it paid for Soraya. She did the enrichment portions. So I offloaded things that were necessary for us or that felt right for our family, but then there were other pieces that we were able to go deeper on because I was offloading some things. So when you're thinking about whether or not this program will work for you or this kind of program, I want you to really like take a breath. Don't be like, "Oh yes, I'm just going to run and do it because it's free money," because there's no such thing as free money. You want to keep that in mind. You want to keep in mind that, hey, I should really think about this. How is this fitting for our family? Is this in alignment with what we want? Am I okay with it? And honestly, if I had younger children, I probably wouldn't do it. When we did a charter school it was an Alaska charter school and we had access to it in Idaho. And it was many years ago. So my older children were probably, I was still married to my ex-husband. So they were under seven. So I think I only had the kindergarten and maybe first grade in there at the time. And they were not requiring testing. But they were just opening their program. Well, now they do require testing. I would never have done it in that regard because of that element. It was really important to me and is really important to me that I sort of keep that space sacred. So I guess what I'm saying is you have to do what's right for your family. I get tons of questions about this one. I really just want you to look at the whole big picture. And if you are considering, like, if you're thinking, "Oh, I'm going to move to one of these places," look at their programs. Look at their programs. I mean, like I said, the first year we moved to Florida, we were not part of that program, but we were part of an umbrella school. And within that umbrella school, I had to have a meeting once a year with the facilitator, and we went through all of the books that my daughter had read. She wanted to see a list and wanted to see the curriculum and that sort of thing. So it was an okay situation. It felt okay. And then I will say too, if you're looking at a charter school situation, I would very much let them know, hey, I'm a Waldorf parent, and push back. So when you're looking at that charter school situation or anybody that wants regular work samples from you, I would say, I just want you to tell me what I must do. Not what do you want from me, but what must I do to fulfill my end of the bargain. Often they ask for way more than what you must do. So you want to keep that in mind as you are up. Now there's two squirrels. They're going to fight over what's in the bird feeder. You're going to want to keep that in mind as you're sort of figuring out, do I want to be part of this or not? And remember that free money is not free money. And it's great to have it. Like, we've enjoyed having it. We're looking forward to having it again next year. I'm happy to have a break from paying our karate fees, but we would do karate even if I didn't have the state scholarship. So you want to just keep those things in mind. I'm hoping that this conversation has just given you something to think about. If you are considering, joining one of these programs or moving to a state that has a program, you want to really do all of the research. And at the end of the day, even if you're not in any of those programs, you definitely want to make sure you are following the law when it comes to your state and it comes to doing the things that you should be doing as a homeschooler. All right. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you are starting your planning for the school year. Hopefully, this gave you some food for thought. And if you have any questions, you always know where to find us. We're always happy to help. And we will see you later. Have a wonderful day. So our curriculum is pretty terrific, but more than just the curriculum, you also get a full training program that is geared towards your child's grade so that you are looking at the content that you need to have in your wheelhouse as you're working through things. We also include our exclusive Planning for Peace planning program that we run every year, and we help you throughout the year so that you have all of the planning pieces that you need to execute this curriculum properly. We are so excited at the possibility of you joining us. If you have any questions, please let us know. We're happy to help you. Our team is very dedicated to your success.